cranky photo thing. Get back here, cigar. Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. And this is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and we're here for an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And I am extremely under the weather this morning. I have injured my shoulder really badly, and it kind of hurts to breathe. But I will do this because today we're talking about my friend and past dog, Comet Corgi. And I want to talk to you about something I did for him that has really helped me. And I will soon be doing a similar thing for my little Tristan. Tristan is only 7 years old. But what I want to talk to you about today is preparing for the time when you don't have your dog anymore. And one of the things I did with Comet did a lot of remarkable things in his lifetime. So I was able to do a lot of writing about him during the time that I was with him. And many of those stories are published in some books from the Upledger Institute and some other journals. And I've posted a few on my website that have more recently been done about him and specific work he's done with elderly people and veteran. So I was lucky to have a lot of writing about Comet. And the Corgi magazine is coming out in a print form one more time for the 40th anniversary. And that is a wonderful thing. I love that little magazine. I'm so sad that it's only online now. It changes it. You know, there's something very kind of old-fashioned about the way a print magazine like that comes to you. But I have decided to buy a memorial ad for Comet, so I didn't know how to do this. And I started looking back through all of my old writing about Comet to get some inspiration to make this memorial ad. And what I realized was what a treasure it is to have some writing about your dog that you can look back on when he is gone. It is so valuable, even if you're not a great writer, even if you're just jotting down some notes, and I think it's a good idea to keep it on your computer, but some people can do a beautiful job with handwriting or just having a little tiny journal where they just write some things about their dog during his lifetime that inspires them or makes them laugh or, you know, really reminds them of their connection to their dog. So looking back through that, it's been 2 years almost at the end of October since Comet passed away. And I have to say, I can now read these without crying hysterically. But it was such an important adventure for me to be going through all of these old writings about Comet, and specifically about my relationship with him and things he did. So one of the things I did once for a fun dog show, they had a little essay contest to write about why your dog is your heart dog. And I think this was a good inspiration to generate some thoughts and writing about your dog. So you might try that yourself. Like, why is this dog your heart dog? Or why do you love this dog? Or what makes this dog special? So I'm going to read to you today what I wrote about Comet at that time for that essay contest, which really everyone got a first prize, so it wasn't really a contest. And writing this memorial ad, I certainly would change a lot of this because this little thing I'm going to read you is about the things Comet did that are measurable or admirable. You know, it's kind of like what you would write about your show dog, champion this, champion that. But what really struck me when I was reading another long thing I wrote about his journey through DM, which included things about going to dog shows and what his costume was and what he did there. That was what really touched my heart. So try to write about some things that really connect you to your dog. You know, how he reacted when you got the new dog, how he was with the first time he met a cat, you know, how much he loves a certain dog you go on walks with, how much he loves a certain type of food, you know, anything to give you a record of your relationship with your dog that at a quiet time years from now you can look back on and smile or have a few tears to remember this wonderful dog. So I'll read you what I wrote about Comet. Comet Corgi is not only a very special Corgi, but a very special dog. I got him on a frozen winter day from the so-called breeder. At 5 months old, he had never been out of his tiny crate. He was blinking in the snow, overwhelmed by my other Corgi, who was Winnie, and the newfound freedom from his crate. He'd never been out of the crate. I brought him home and named him Comet after seeing a shooting star one night when I had awakened to take him out, which I did often because being in a crate for 5 months and never going out, he did not know about pooping in a place besides where he slept and ate. My other Corgi, Winston, taught Comet how to be my dog, how to work with me, detecting seizures in the children I worked with in my craniosacral therapy practice. Comet went on to become a canine good citizen, a Delta certified advanced therapy dog, and a certified service dog. He has flown from California to Florida on my lap to assist me in teaching my craniosacral therapy classes for small animals and to attend conferences as my demonstration dog. And in fact, Comet posed for all of the pictures in the craniosacral workbook demonstrating hand positions for small animals. And we had some kitties too. He has met famous people like Dr. John Upledger, the developer of craniosacral therapy, Linda Tellington-Jones, the developer of T-Touch and T-Team, as well as Dr. Bernie Siegel, famous cancer doctor and surgeon who has written wonderful books like Love, Medicine, and Miracles. Comet even conversed with dolphins and whales when I had been working with them on a boat for a few weeks. And I have to add that every time I went on a whale watch with Comet, he would go to the side of the boat and start barking. And within seconds, really, less than a minute, whales would start breaching and coming over to the boat. He really had an intuitive ability to connect with these sea mammals in a way that was amazing. On another boat in Florida, when we were on one of the coastal waterways there, he did a similar thing. He was just sort of whining, and a manatee came up and was floating right near the surface and waved her flipper at us. So he also had the opportunity to meet some dolphins and lick them on their little fishy noses. And it's a really remarkable thing when animals from such variant ways of life can meet each other. And of course, he worked with me with horses doing craniosacral therapy. Comet is very likely the last surviving dog who worked after 9/11 in New York City. He went there with me when we offered free craniosacral work for anyone who wanted to come. And at the last minute, the Swedish Massage Institute would not allow Comet to work with us. So instead, he went to the site and to the offices of 2 psychotherapists that he did not know. He worked for 2 weeks, comforting grieving people, holding hugs and tears, and coming home every night to romp with me in Central Park. And he was also really enjoying his turkey and chicken breasts I got from a takeout deli across the street. Comet was commended for his valuable work after 9/11. He was one of the few dogs who did not show signs of stress with this difficult job. And I have to credit that to T-Touch, which I taught the psychotherapists literally over the phone. I never met them live. And they had, I think I left them some drawings in the house of what to do to work with his ears and keep him happy so that he could deal with all of this grief around him. He was such a happy dog, so it was okay for him. Comet continued to work with me in nursing homes where silent and depressed elderly veterans told him stories of their lives. At the time I wrote this, he was nearly 14 years old, and I'm grateful that in his lifetime I became a canine chiropractor, developed small animal craniosacral therapy, and learned to do my work with tuning forks, and learned everything I know in order to help him live through his journey with DM, which, as you know, is degenerative myelopathy. It's a neurologic disease that affects many breeds of dogs, but especially Corgis, where they are paralyzed from the hind end forward gradually. Comet was patient and comes to see me whenever he needs any adjustment or body work. He is very wise, and he still worked with me up to age 14, calming reactive dogs. I trust his judgment absolutely, and it's always a happy moment when a reactive dog calms enough that Comet approaches him for a sniff. Comet is a dog who wanted to spend his life playing after his early captivity, and instead he matured to do the work that I needed him to do in order to be my partner and make a difference in so many animal lives and human lives with a gentle touch of his nose. So that's what I wrote about Comet in 2012, and then he died, I guess, in 2015. So I really encourage you to write something like this about your dog. And, you don't have to talk about his show winnings unless you want to, and that's important to you. And you don't have to talk about whether he's a canine good citizen. You might talk about things like the time he got loose in dog school and ran around and sniffed all the other dogs and did a tinkle in the corner, because that's going to bring a smile to your face later on. I think it's so important for us to have a record of our lives with our animals, because it's so often that we forget. We remember one or two things about that pony we had when we were 12, but we don't remember so much of the day-to-day experiences with that pony. And things like how patient he was when you were too short to reach his head to get the bridle on him, or things like how hard it was for you to learn to clean the back feet and not be afraid of getting kicked. So these are the things that you want to remember about your animal, your horse, your dog, your cat, your bunny, even a little mouse. We had a great little hamster when we were children, and I should have written about him in my book, but my book is already really long. But even that little hamster Snowball taught us a lot of lessons, and maybe I'll actually do a Facebook Live just about Snowball. And I even made a tiny stuffed animal of him when I was a child, but I think it got lost in the flood at my sister's house a few years ago. Anyway, so take some time, not necessarily today. I know it's a busy time of year with back to school for people and stuff, but just take some time to just jot down some notes or little stories that you would love to remember about your dog when he's not with you anymore. It's going to be a real comfort to you when he is gone. And so many of us post wonderful pictures and stories about our animals on Facebook, but Facebook is not necessarily a permanent record of things in your dog's life. It's hard to even find episode 5 of Conversations with a Corgi on my Facebook pages now, which is why they're archived on YouTube. So I encourage you to, even if you're recording it yourself, to have some record of your dog. And I have to tell you, it really is a treasure that I have this in writing. And I think that I will indeed take my own advice and get one of my many blank journals and just start a little journal about things I do with Tristan. He loves going to the beach, and there are so many experiences he's had at the beach that were so cute and fun and amazing and whatever, like getting too close to a seagull, his caution, trotting carefully around a dead seagull that was just washed up on the beach in a mess. And another time a seagull was sitting up but clearly dying, and the way Tristan walked up to that seagull and just sat down near him, staring at him, not to scare him, was a remarkable thing. And until this moment, I hadn't thought about it in a long time. So things like this are things you want to remember about your dogs or your cats or your bunnies. So take some time, get a pen, or use your computer and type it up and add to it as your dog gets older, and write some stories about your pets, because that's what's going to help you remember them, and that's going to touch your heart forever. So that's our advice today. Write about your dogs while you still have them, and it's still fun, because it's very hard to do when they've passed. I can tell you that from experience. Tristan, any advice? He says, write about my seagulls, Mom. Thanks for joining us today, and tomorrow I'll be at my work as an educator, and I will be back on Thursday morning for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And we are heading off to the Cape again this weekend for the fun dog show to raise money for the shelter there in Provincetown, which has now been moved to Sunday, not Saturday. So that'll be fun for us, a new place, a new day. So we will hopefully send you a Facebook Live from there, but I don't know if it's going to happen because, you have to always have a good internet connection. So thanks for joining us today. Write about your dog. Keep a record of their lives, because they can't do it by themselves. And if it's hard for you, you might exchange with a friend write something about their dog, they write something about your dog, and sure enough, you'll have plenty of comments to change or add, so you can start that way if it's hard. Thanks for joining us today. Get that pen and paper ready. Your dog's story wants to be told.